All right. Has everyone found their seats? Shh. It's amazing how well that works. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving week is such an amazing week in the city of Detroit, and we are just honored that all of you would take time out of your busy schedules to spend some time with us to celebrate the transformative mayor of Detroit, our friend Mike Duggan. I want to welcome all of you to the Detroit Regional Chamber and our new offices. We know many of you, but for some of you, this might be your first time in our new offices. So welcome. I want to particularly acknowledge the board of directors that are here for the Detroit Regional Chamber. Thank you for all that you do for us here at the Chamber and across the region. I can't introduce all of you, but our board chair is here, Peter Quigley from Kelly. Peter, thank you so much. So when I look across this room, I see the who's who of the folks that drove Detroit's success, the revival of one of America's greatest cities. But as we all know, success has many, many partners. And here in Detroit, what makes us and continues to make us the story, the international, the national story that it is, it's because of the unison of action, government, civic, business, education, labor, philanthropy, working together, working in unison. But today's celebration is about the quarterback of that amazing effort, our friend Mike Duggan, and the transformative role that he has played as our mayor for 3 terms. And of course, if the Detroit Regional Chamber has anything to say about it, Michigan's next governor. I had the honor of inheriting this wonderful role in this wonderful organization many, many years ago now. Now this organization is perhaps the largest chamber of commerce in the country. We have offices in Detroit and Lansing. We have a presence in Washington, D.C. We have 90 staff, a portfolio in public policy and in education and automotive, and on and on and on. And of course, we have our nationally recognized Mackinac Policy Conference. The Chamber is proud of many things, but one of the milestones that we're going to be proud of is how we have continued to support Mike Duggan in his bid for public service in jobs that pay far less than his value. Today, Mike Duggan sits as the exiting mayor of Detroit, celebrated as America's most effective mayor. Before he was elected, however, Mike Duggan was just the guy that everyone said, wait a minute, this guy's running for mayor of Detroit? When he was kicked off the ballot in his initial run for mayor, in one of the most transparently politically motivated stunts I've ever seen, and I worked in Washington for a while, and I'm pretty familiar with transparently motivated stunts, Mike ended up at a small board luncheon that the chamber hosted right down the road here. And as an aside, people forget that before Mike Duggan became Mayor Mike Duggan, he was the transformative CEO of the DMC and a board member right here at the Detroit Regional Chamber. At this small luncheon, Mike laid out the impossible, the improbable pathway for him to become Detroit's next mayor. Now, Mike, I might remember the conversation a little wrong, so forgive me, but it kind of went something like this. Mike's telling us, so I'm not on the ballot. I've been kicked off the ballot. I'm going to have to run as a write-in candidacy, there's this barber guy named Mike Duggan, who I'm pretty sure is a character out of A League of Their Own, and I'm a minority running in the city, and we all looked at each other and we said, "We're in. We're absolutely in," and we've been in ever since. But between the living rooms and the basements across Michigan's signature city, the folks in this room, and our very special guest that'll join us shortly, Mike Duggan led a cast of thousands that transformed this city into the storied celebration that it is. I am proud to work with so many of my business organization peers across the state, business leaders from Michigan, the Grand Rapids Chamber, Michigan Manufacturers Association, Small Business Association, and the Michigan Chamber, and others. When I talk with my peers, they tell me that the interest in their memberships about the growing excitement over what Mike Duggan has done in Detroit and what he can potentially do for the state just continues to grow. The Detroit Regional Chamber is certainly not pulling our punches. We support Mayor Mike Duggan today, and we support him going forward. And a champion of Detroit, a New Yorker, Jamie Dimon himself, has said that Mike Duggan should perhaps run for president. Now, I don't think that's a bad idea, but let's try to keep him a little closer to home for a little while longer. So today, the Detroit Regional Chamber is pleased to provide this venue for a handful of voices, friends of the Chamber, friends of Mayor Duggan, to share their stories about what Mike's leadership has done for the city and what it's done for their companies. So to get things going, let's start with a short video.
In just the last 3 years, we got more than 2,500 Detroiters full-time jobs through the training and placement in Detroit at Work. We put them into training programs with good paying jobs. And there are jobs today for every Detroiter looking for work. We wanted to give our young folks the opportunity to know what it was like to go to work. In the city of Detroit, we've got the best summer jobs program in America. There's 450 companies in Detroit hiring every single summer. 8,000 young people are working at GDYT. When Flexingate went to hire their first 500 jobs, 16,000 applicants showed up. We beat out 5 other states and landed a Jeep assembly plant on Mack Avenue. And they hired 4,000 Detroiters for good paying jobs. And the GM Poletown plant, which was on the verge of closing, never had more than 1,600 workers when they were making gasoline-powered cars, converted over to Factory Zero, and now they've got employees making electric Hummers and Silverados and Sierras. And then we took the abandoned Kettering High School site and landed a 600-employee Dakota dashboard plants for the Jeeps. And the Torgos built the new Huntington Bank headquarters. They came in here and brought 600 jobs to downtown Detroit. And so we demolished the 40-year abandoned Hudson Motor plant and landed a new 700-employee Lear seating plant on that site. We have lots of good-paying jobs in lots of places. JP Morgan Chase was outsourcing their call center. I said, how about you insource it to Detroit? They created $24 an hour jobs with people doing these call centers from home, and they're now up to 150 people that they are hiring in the city. And the 30-year abandoned AMC headquarters on Plymouth Road is now the site of a new parts facility, employing more than 200 workers. And that train station, abandoned since 1988, Ford just reopened in June as an innovation center, just moved in 1,000 workers. For most of my life, the hospital systems have bailed on Detroit and put their investments in the suburbs. And today, we are seeing one of the finest hospitals anywhere in America being built here in the city of Detroit. About 12 years ago, we started something at the city called Motor City Match. Almost 200 companies employing 2,000 people are operating today as a result of Motor City Match. Dan Gilbert came along and had a plan. He brought this new building out of the ground to now the second tallest building, soaring skyward in the city of Detroit. This is what we are building.
So, as promised, I am pleased to welcome an incredible roster of leaders to speak today. Following these speakers, I will introduce our very special guest for a fireside chat with Mayor Duggan. Our speakers this morning have closely partnered with Mayor Duggan to make Detroit the international story that it is, a 300-year-old overnight success story. First up, Bob Riney, President, CEO, Henry Ford Health, and Vice Chair of the Detroit Regional Chamber. Bob is the quintessential American success story. Raised in Detroit, educated in Detroit, started work as a security guard at Henry Ford Health, where he met his wife, Sandy. That's a whole other story. And has made Henry Ford Health the world-class destination for healthcare that it is today. And he's working towards so much more with the game-changing $3 billion investment with Dan Gilbert and MSU on right here up the street in Grand Boulevard. Next up will be Gary Torgo, Chairman, Huntington National Bank. Who has been a better friend to all of us, as well as a more effective, impactful, and elegant leader of Detroit's business community than Huntington's Gary Torgo? Founder of the Sterling Group, the force behind Huntington's move to the new headquarters right here, right up the street on Woodward Avenue, and has made Huntington Detroit's bank. The leader of the Strategic Neighborhood Fund that raised over $250 million of private dollars to support Detroit's neighborhoods, and the backbone of the new Water Square and JW Marriott developments that'll create the most fashionable filler between what we consider today downtown with the new impressive Wilson Park on the West Waterfront. And so much more. Gary, we're honored to have you here today. Following Gary, I'm pleased to welcome to the chamber Mamba Hamasi, co-owner of Babo. Babo is an award-winning East African restaurant in Detroit and a recipient of the city programs that Mayor Duggan put into place, showcasing not what just smart policy can do to drive entrepreneurship, but the incredible role that immigrants play in our society and make our society better, and the incredible impact that it has on all of us. Welcome. We're so pleased to have you here today. Following our chef, you'll hear from another close friend of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Sylvester Hester, President and CEO of LM Manufacturing, an innovative automotive and business leader showcasing the future of manufacturing is happening right here in the city of Detroit. Employing Detroiters not just for today, but putting them on a high-skilled trade path that prepares them for the jobs of tomorrow and our next generation mobility. Closing our initial speakers is none other than the incomparable Cindy Paskey, founder, president, and CEO of Strategic Staffing Solutions and a former chair of the Detroit Regional Chamber. Some of you may know her as a signature sponsor of the historic Detroit Thanksgiving Day Turkey Trot. And I see some of you are carbo loading for that event that takes place 48 hours from now as we speak. Others know her as the leader of a company founded right here in Detroit, but now expands across the globe. And many others know her as someone who made Detroit her civic cause way before it was cool to do so. So with that, I'm proud to welcome Bob, Gary, Mamba, Sylvester, and Cindy. And Bob, you're up first.
Thank you, Sandy, and good morning and happy Thanksgiving week to all of you. I'm trying to use my phone versus paper because my daughter has been just harassing me terribly. So we'll see how this goes. But I wanted to just start off by saying that my wife and I had a weekend in Detroit this past weekend that 12 years ago I would have never deemed possible. We started off Friday evening with Hobnobble Gobble. We went over to the amazing tree lighting ceremony in both places, just the crowds, the energy, the joy, the exuberance. On Saturday morning, we got up and went to Eastern Market. We followed that by 4 hours of shopping on Woodward Avenue and the streets adjacent to it, where we spent way more money than we had planned. But what we saw was just incredible. I mean, it was just blocks and blocks of shoppers carrying holiday shopping bags, something that took me back to the old days as a child when Hudson's was the anchor. And it was really something to watch and something to see. We had lunch at a great place downtown, and then Sunday we came back downtown to watch the Lions, where although it took a year off our lives, um, uh, because they just can't do things easy, it was just one of those weekends that on the way home we said, this is what people fly to New York for. This is what people travel to Chicago for. And we had an amazing experience. And I encourage all of you to take advantage of how amazingly beautiful the city is right now during the holidays, and all these new stores and stores that have been around a long time that need our support so that they can stay and flourish. But it's a real privilege to be here to honor Mike Duggan, someone I've had the ability to call a friend, a colleague, a competitor at certain points in our career, and most importantly, a leader that I admire just incredibly. Very few people have impacted Detroit as profoundly as Mike has, not only as mayor, but even before then. As someone who embodies the spirit and grit of this city, he leads in a way that inspires countless people to believe in Detroit, both now and into the future. And belief is contagious. When I launched my podcast back in January, the Bobcast, I wasn't sure what the reception would be, particularly when it came to asking guests to be on it. And there's a lot of podcasts out there. But even when it was brand new, Mike never hesitated when in fact, he was my number two guest, episode number two. He got us off to a great start, and it's been a privilege to have many great leaders on since then, including Dan Gilbert and Gary Torgo. When Mike and I were recording, he told a story that really resonated with me. It was about him sitting with his father years ago, watching the Lions while his dad yelled at their black and white TV. I had to laugh because I had a very similar childhood experience, except mine was on the front porch, listening to my dad yell at the Tigers on the radio while he kept score by hand. And those memories are really embedded in Mike, myself, and I'm guessing a lot of people in this room. The moments are meaningful, and it really made me reflect on the fact that Detroit knows exactly what it means to be an underdog, and we know what it means to stand back up in the face of adversity, keep believing, and win. That's the same spirit that has defined Mike's leadership over the past 12 years and has driven the amazing growth we've all seen and experienced over that time. Mike talked about in the video Henry Ford Health's investment, and we are spending with great partners, Michigan State University, the Gilbert Family Foundation, the Nick Gilbert Neurofibromatosis Institute, the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and the Detroit Pistons. We are spending collectively about 3.4 billion in Midtown. This is beyond the word transformative. We have to come up with a new word that describes the magnitude of this investment. And I can tell you, our board deciding that now is the time to double down and triple down on Detroit was very much impacted by the tremendous confidence they had in the city under Mike Duggan's leadership. And timing is everything. And I remember our conversations with the board like it was yesterday, and Mike's name, his leadership came up over and over again. And I'm very confident that under Mayor elect Sheffield, we'll continue to see great things. What I will tell you is that partnerships happen when egos are shrunk and ideas are grown. And that's what I think Mike has done in the city. He has knit together a whole lot of unusual suspects, people that hadn't worked historically together, that came together and were inspired by the vision, by the common cause, by the will, by the determination and the grit that Mike brought to the table. So, Mike, we are just so grateful for your 12 years of leadership. And you know that you've made a mark when the foundation is so set that it will absolutely continue and be replicated after you've gone on to great other things. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Sandy and the Chamber, for including us this morning. As many of you, we've watched Mike Duggan through Wayne County, through his tenure at the prosecutor's office, through his service at DMC, and now over the last 12 years to watch the remarkable transformation, sorry, Bob, he has created here in the city of Detroit. Under the mayor's leadership, we all know these facts. Our city has demolished tens of thousands of blighted homes, reduced crime to its lowest levels in decades, grown employment by more than 30,000, attracted billions in new private investment, returned Detroit's credit rating to investment grade, and has grown its population for the first time in generations. Even Governing Magazine, which is a real magazine, recently named him America's most effective mayor. And we and all Detroiters have noticed the incredible results. To give you some idea of the persuasiveness and vision and opportunity is provided for so many, let me share this morning just two personal stories I have had in my interaction with the mayor. The first was back in the day, just after the city exited bankruptcy, and the city, along with its new mayor, Mike Duggan, made a decision to put all of the city's banking business up for grabs. And there were lots of opportunities, and there was a big RFP. And at the time of the city's RFP, our bank, which was then Chemical, was a smallish $20 billion bank. And we were frankly a bit small, but very confident that we could handle the city's business. And after a thorough review of the RFP responses, the mayor and his team decided to call the banks together and ask them what they thought and how they think they should win this. We came in the room and the mayor asked if we thought we were big enough and technologically sophisticated enough to handle a $500 million account in all the city's banking. I responded quickly on behalf of the bank and said, absolutely. Like, what else was I supposed to say? The mayor, in his inimitable fashion, said, okay, maybe that's true, and we'll certainly vet that. But what else can the bank do to entice us to choose you? I said, Mr. Mayor, I think we could get our board of directors to move our entire bank and our headquarters from Midland to Detroit, and therefore you'll have a new headquartered bank in the city of Detroit. The mayor responded and said, really, I like that, but let's dig a little bit deeper. Where will this supposed headquarters be? I said, Mr. Mayor, with a little bit of trepidation, we'll build a new headquarter building in Detroit. And really, he said, as only Mike Duggan could, tell me, where will the building be? And honestly, having absolutely no clue, I said, of course, it'll be on the main drag in Detroit, Woodward Avenue. The mayor still wasn't satisfied. He said, well, how big will the building be? I got up all my confidence and I pretended I knew exactly what I was talking about. And I said, Mr. Mayor, it'll be a glorious 20-story tower in downtown Detroit. Okay, Gary, still not satisfied. How many people will you bring to Detroit in that building? I said, Mr. Mayor, how many do you want? He said, no less than 600. I said, okay, sounds like a good number. We'll do that. And then the mayor said, okay, why don't you put all that in writing and all those promises, and we'll get back to you. Lo and behold, we won the bid. Our board agreed unanimously to move our headquarters to Detroit. And by the time all this happened, we had announced a merger with TCF in Minneapolis. We had grown to $50 billion in assets. And now we were headquartered in Detroit, our name firmly planted as Detroit's bank. And we had also placed our name at his encouragement on the old Cobo Hall, which then became the TCF Center. We began construction on the 50-yard line of Detroit. And as the mayor shared many times, we had built the first new high-rise tower in downtown Detroit in 30 years. Would never have happened without him. Only Mike Duggan could make those demands and create an environment where such a thing could be possible. The second moment I'm reminded of was that early in his first term, Mayor Duggan and his team discovered startlingly that in a city of more than 600,000 people, only 500 residential mortgages had been completed across the entire city in that year. So like he did with everything else, he decided to try and fix that problem. He started talking to bankers, to business leaders, to housing experts, going around the country to figure out different ways to help the city residents borrow money and become real homeowners. He analyzed the problem and he understood that one of the difficulties was that just buying a home in Detroit wasn't enough because most of the older, good housing stock required the new homeowners do some significant fix-up, and therefore the first mortgage just wasn't enough. And so the mayor got all of us into a room to figure out what the barriers were to help more and more people get mortgages and buy homes in Detroit. Around that time, the mayor had been invited to be the keynote at the Clinton Global Initiative in Denver, and he used that conference to invite lots of Detroit business leaders, bankers, and foundation leaders to fly down to discuss those very serious mortgage issues in Detroit. And as usual, he pushed all of us to think out of the box. As a result of that conference and these discussions, the mayor initiated and helped create the Detroit Home Mortgage Program, which provided borrowers with a first mortgage to purchase a home and a second mortgage to finance repairs, which were needed in nearly every home that was bought and sold in Detroit. Over time, hundreds and hundreds of people in Detroit took advantage of that special mortgage program, and they became homeowners for the first time. Much later, of course, Mike Duggan led the historic Detroit Downtown Payment Assistance Program that provided $25,000 in down payment assistance to nearly 1,000 new homeowners. That effort became the most successful down payment assistance program in our country. Parenthetically, as I close, at the end of that conference in Denver, the mayor and I realized we were on the same Delta flight home, and he graciously offered to drive me to the airport with him. So I waited with his luggage while he trekked up to the 11th floor of the parking deck to retrieve his Ford Fiesta that he had rented. On the way to the airport car rental, he insisted on stopping for gas since it would save the city money as it cost less than returning it with an empty tank. And we got pretty close to almost missing our flight because of that stop. When we finally got to the Delta counter to send his luggage through, he handed his driver's license to the flight agent, who said as she looked up, the desk agent, she looked up and she said, "Oh, I see you're from Detroit. I just moved to Denver a month ago from Southfield." I looked at her very, very proud and I said, "Do you know who this man is?" She said, "No." I said, "Oh, he's the new mayor of Detroit." She looked back at Mayor Duggan, schlepping his own luggage, no staff, no security, no tie, classic Mike, and said, "You got to be kidding." This is the Mayor Duggan we have come to know and love. He is a leader who solves problems, who watches every budget he's responsible for ever so carefully, a leader who brings humility, discipline, and a heart to everything that he touches. He is a leader who has united a city and has engaged local, national, and international leadership to help Detroit prosper more and more. He has turned on lights throughout the city, made city services not a luxury, but a reality for Detroit residents. When I look back over these 12 years, I'm reminded of what's possible in America, especially with great leaders who believe in their communities, their citizens, and their country, who can unite everyone around a special cause and make everyone feel welcome. The mayor has shown what disciplined leadership, vision, and compassion can achieve. He has accomplished what very few thought was possible, and he has turned our city of Detroit into a comeback story like almost no other city in America. Mayor Duggan, each and every one of us, thank you for what you have done for Detroit and for all of us who have the privilege to work with you. You have achieved remarkable results, and we are all the beneficiaries of your results and of your efforts. And as you continue your remarkable career into the future, we wish you only the best and know that the next chapter, whatever it is, will be one of great success and significance. Thank you, Mayor Duggan.
Good morning, everyone. To our philanthropists, to the mayor and his team, thank you, everyone who invests in people in the neighborhood. Thank you. Mayor Duggan, I also want to thank you for your service. 12 years is long, but you did a lot. You focus on basics, support programs like Motor City Match and strategic neighborhood, and you help me make path clear to small businesses like mine. My name is Hamisi Mamba. 10 years ago, I came to Detroit with a small suitcase, about $300, a big hope, even if I didn't speak English at that time, but I had a lot of dream about this country. That's only happened because I was in Detroit. I worked hard, the city would meet me and halfway. Detroit did more than that. It helped open the door, said, "Come in, let's build." At Freedom House Detroit, my family found safety. In our neighborhoods, we found friends. With Barber Fair, we found purpose. Into good food, good jobs, and new chances for the people. Motor City March helped us to start. We opened Barber Fair with 50,000 from Motor City March, with grants and loans from CDFIs. That first years changed everything. I turned into the ideas into real plan and plan into places where people could gather and work. From day one, we made a promise. Every single dollar we earn, we invest it back into business, into our team, into Detroit. That is how Soko started. We work with growers in Honduras. The passion fruit in our drinks come from partners we know and trust. We import coffee from Burundi and roast here in Detroit. This creates local jobs and keeps our roots alive. You can follow our work from the farms to the cup. We also remember where we began on the street. We were well known on doing pop-up on the street of Detroit. But the city of Detroit didn't punish us by violating the law, but tried to help us so we can open a restaurant. Saving people and land first, street misses us. And then we decided so we can start another brand so then we can go back on the street. We launched Waka, our East African street food brand. The food truck did so well, and then it needed a home. That home is Eastern Market. Eastern Market, we're open next month. That means more jobs, more trainings, and more flavors for Detroit. Our story is not only about restaurants. Last year, we bought a building on east side of Detroit. This is an investment, $0.5 million. This was possible because of the strategic neighborhood funds and the city's strong support for small businesses. This means when public tools match community, vision, regular people like me can do big things. Our impact shows up in numbers and in people. On paper, we brought private investment into the city corridors and create dozens of jobs from front of the house, back of the house, managers, operations, logistics, and roastings. In real lives, it looked like a parent paying rent on time, a newcomer sending money home, a young Detroiter getting their first leadership role and dreaming bigger. So here is my simple ask for the new administration. Keep the on-ramp strong. Program like Motor City Match, good coaching, fair long-term first-time founders into first-time employees. Please, those leads study, especially for immigrants, returning citizens, and anyone who had already said no. Make easy to say yes. Clear inspections, clear timelines, and right-size credit help us to open on time. Speed and clarity protect payroll and momentum. Keep rooms like this open. Don't only celebrate the finished story, invite rough draft, help regular people with big dreams, because this is a Detroit DNA. Detroit changed my life. It gave me dignity of work, the joy of serving my community, and the chance to build something my children can be proud of. To our philanthropists, to the mayor and his team, to the CDFIs and lenders, and to everyone who chooses to invest, thank you. If you ever doubt what Detroit can do, come to Barber Fair, taste the dish from Burundi, made with the Detroit love, and next month, please visit Waka in Eastern Market. You will see what mean when we are many stories, one table, there is always room for one more. Detroit welcomed me as a stranger, made me a neighbor. Today, they keep doors open. Keep the round arm clear and keep saying yes to the next dreamer who arrived with small suitcase and the big dream. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning. Certainly an honor for me to be here today to celebrate Mayor Duggan and 12 years of strong, effective leadership for our great city of Detroit. I'm going to start off right now and let you guys know I am unapologetically in love with Detroit. Anybody else in here that way? I'm telling you, I love Detroit right now. You think about it, we make things at the end of the day, right? I mean, Henry Ford, you got Ransom Olds, you got the Dodge brothers. They've rolled up and down these very streets, right? And they grew iconic companies that are still known globally. During the World War II, we flexed that manufacturing muscle and did what? Turn it into the arsenal of democracy right here in Detroit. I just love it. I love what we stand for. We have that grit. Now, I've been here since 2004 and bought a condo downtown Detroit, and I'm a native Detroiter by way of marriage. I picked that one up last night, okay? By way of marriage, my wife grew up on Dexter Davidson, so I understand. I'm not here just saying Pollyanna things about Detroit. We went through some tough times, but you know, we have great people and we had great leaders like Mayor Duggan that supported and assisted us as we move forward, and we're going to continue to build on that success that we've had so far. Now, apparently, I found out also when I went through this process that I'm not very smart. I decided that I was going to open up a manufacturing location downtown Detroit in the heart of a pandemic. And I know I needed a partner to do that, the right partner. Now, I had met Mayor Duggan in 2017 when we sit back and we opened up Clark Street with the late Dr. Picard, and I actually introduced you during that time. But also I knew I had the right partner when, as I was going through that process of starting the company, Mike Duggan had won over my aunties over on Glendale Street. Absolutely. I was telling her all about the struggles that I was dealing with and trying to put this business up. And she said, yeah, well, you need to go talk to Mike Duggan. I said, okay. I thought that was unusual that my 80-year-old auntie and her friends knew about Mike Duggan. She says, oh, yeah, he can help you. They picking up my trash, the street lights are on, and that raggedy ass house across the street is gone. I said, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? She says, yeah. They're picking up my trash, the street lights are on, and that raggedy house, remember the one across the street, it was gone. And I said, indeed, it is gone. And that's when I knew he was the right partner because I had challenges. We were now going to stand up a manufacturing location in Detroit, Ellen Manufacturing. You saw that on our screen today. Ellen Manufacturing, we were putting up this 297,000 square foot facility. It was in a new place, new people, with a new process, with a complex launch, with established platform. In other words, our customers already running 55 jobs per hour, and we had a very short period of time to keep up with that. And on top of that, it was actually two buildings right there, the old Stockton Automotive facility, and we had to then build a 33,000 square foot connector for that site. This was a daunting task. Now, I already had met Mayor Duggan. I already knew from my aunt he was the right guy for the job, so I went to Mayor Duggan. I said, Mayor, listen, I really want to put this operation here in Detroit. He says, well, let's do it. I said, well, let's do it. He said, yeah, well, how many jobs? So I know exactly what you're saying. How many jobs? I said, about 390. He said, that's good. He says, you like that facility? I said, I do. He said, what do you need from me? I said, everything. I mean, what don't I need from you, right? We had to talk to the landlords. We had to talk to permitting. They're building a bridge right under where we are. We have all this dirt, all this mud. I need traffic control. He said, well, let's do it. He put me in touch with the right people. And today I'm letting you know we did it. So special thanks to Nicole Sherrod Freeman, who you assigned to Ford Motor Company, to Bedrock, and all the partners that help out. But it was all under the orchestration and leadership of Mayor Duggan. And today we have 600 workers and employees working at LM Manufacturing with 94% Detroit residents. Actually, it's 93.4. Mayor, I know how you are with your metrics and analytics, right? But I added up a little bit. We hosted 300 kids from DPSCD in our facility through our program called Exposed to Inspire. We facilitated multiple programs to address the barriers of sustainable transportation, like portable mobility, personal mobility, housing, and childcare. We're dealing with financial literacy for our employees, prepare them for the future. We are dealing with the justice impacted and justice impaired employees in our city. All of this because we had a leader that cared enough to not only want manufacturing to come back in town, but he also rolled up his sleeves and created partnerships with me and other employers in town to make sure that we had what we need to put these businesses in this particular location. So for that, Mayor, I just want to say thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you so much for caring, and we're excited about what's next in your career and your career. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sandy, for the invitation to be here and to be back at the chamber. And yes, a very long time ago, I had the honor and opportunity to chair the chamber, and it has served myself and us three well ever since then. And most of you know this, but if you don't, I've actually lived in the city of Detroit since 1986. So we've had an opportunity to see a lot of administrations and a lot of changes. And I'm a voter and am very happy and pleased that I'm a voter. I've also had an opportunity to work and know Mike all the way back to his days as a prosecutor under Ed McNamara. We worked with him. Many of you might remember, if you were up at the chamber, boards that we all signed up for to adopt a school, right? Mike has always found a way to contribute, no matter what the role was, no matter whether it was direct or indirect. We still support Clifford, and we thank you for that opportunity and that introduction. I was honored to be able to support him as a member of the board when he was CEO for the Detroit Medical Center, and really had an opportunity to see a Mike that the city has benefited from for the last 12 years in his leadership at the medical center. You know, I know that I have a reputation for having strong opinions, and I know that a lot of people in this room think sometimes I'm too loud about those opinions. But I do think that everyone in this room is really, really thankful that I had a strong enough opinion at the stage of the DAC to say that I'm going to write Mike Duggan's name in on my ballot. Some of the best words I have ever said. Now, I will tell you that I got a phone call from him shortly after that, and it was, "What the hell did you do?" And I said, "What you should do." And Mike came back and he opened the office, and our city has benefited and never looked back, and neither did Mike. And so I'm going to run through a lot of this has been said, but having been in the city, and us three celebrated our 35th year of being headquartered in the city of Detroit by choice, when entities weren't choosing to be headquartered in the city of Detroit. We're looking to be here. And our commitment is to always be here, and to proudly say that we're headquartered here. So Mike did what a lot of other cities take for granted. He focused on neighborhood and city services first. He really did turn thousands and thousands of streetlights back on, and he turned them on with technology and replaced them with LED. He restored what we now all take for granted, which are basic services: garbage pickup, snow removal, stronger emergency response, the blight removal effort, public transit, more drivers, longer hours, better routes, safety, demolition with the preservation of historical character, right? When you look at our downtown and you look at the view that I have an opportunity to see every day, and I'm biased, but I think it's the perfect blend of recognizing what's been here for years and what's been created immediately new, that's stunning, and how well they sit next to each other. Having an opportunity to travel globally, that's actually very rare. He's helped thousands avoid foreclosure, tax relief. I'm famous for saying hope's not a strategy, but Mike Duggan, as mayor of the city of Detroit, has allowed hope to be a strategy for our residents in a meaningful and impactful way. Economic and workforce leadership, we have that now. We have it in a meaningful way. We have an administration that counts the number of jobs that are created, the type of jobs that are created, who fills those jobs, how long they stay in those jobs, what training they need for those jobs, and makes that a viable economic tool to recruit corporations and companies to come here. We have a vibrant workforce, all levels, all categories. We have Detroiters that want to work, They want an opportunity to improve their station in life, and we had a mayor that ensured that that happened. Grow Detroit's Young Talent started out with an initial class of probably 25 students, and now it's well over 8,000 students. That was in a vision of our mayor's, makes a difference every single day. And then the things that we really don't want to remember, but we are incredibly thankful and perhaps don't note. We had the best mayor possible as we went through COVID. We had impeccable leadership. We had an individual that would pick up a phone and call anyone in any office in the United States in any party to say, my job is to protect the city of Detroit, to take care of the citizens of the city of Detroit, and to get what I need. He didn't care what party they were in. He didn't care if he agreed with all their politics. He didn't care what he said, where they sat. His job was to be our leader and to protect our city. And I challenge anyone to find an elected mayor during COVID that handled that situation to the benefit and the support of a city as well as Mike Duggan did. In 2020, we had a series of protests. Detroit stayed largely peaceful. We had the right to protest. We had praise for appropriate organizers. We had support. We had a mayor and a chief that were out front. We had very little violence, but we didn't silence voices. We had direct engagement and still do to this day with the residents, our faith-based organizers, and we have a level of trust. Again, I challenge you to find a city in North America that could navigate through that in the way that our mayor led us through it, to allow everyone to have a voice, everyone to have a place at the table in a way that was not violent, that did not hurt the city, and told stories. All of this becomes because Mike is hands-on. He visits residents' home. Yes, he drives himself around the city. There's nothing more delightful than walking down the street with Mayor Mike Duggan and people yelling out of the car, waving, hey, Mayor, thank you for this, thank you for that. The story about the ants is absolutely true. But that's what you need to do. And successful CEOs do the same thing. We travel, we get on planes, we're in front of our customers, we're in front of our teams. And that's what Mike has done. Is I know he's already started that in his campaign for governor. How many people can he meet? I think he will set a record for the number of people he meets in the state of Michigan between now and the election. He's a big reader, which is something I can relate to. It reads at least 2 books a month. With everything else going on, I think one of his favorites is The Stand. He is very big on substance over style, data, measurable outcomes, operational excellence. He works across administrations, across nonprofits, employers, labor. If you think about the Mayor's Workforce Board when it was started in 2015, there was no workforce board that looked like that, or there probably isn't one that still looks like that had labor, CEOs, faith-based, local entities, all at the table, understanding the mission, understanding what the objective, create opportunities to put Detroiters to work. He leads with caring, he leads very importantly with policies that are centered on dignity and opportunity for all Detroiters, for new Detroiters, for Detroiters that started as I did when my grandparents came here in 1911. Mike, you have, Mayor Duggan, you have strengthened our neighborhoods, our workforce, our youth, and our families. That says to all of us, and particularly to me, that we have an opportunity to maintain and sustain and build upon what you've done because of the way you did that. You roll up your sleeves, you get results, you lose your patience when it's appropriate, you circle back around, and you get it done. So from all of the Detroiters and all of us, not just in the state of Michigan, but around the world, to be able to tell the story of what Detroit is because of your leadership. And thank you for driving back down from up north. Thank you, Mayor Duggan.
Bob, Gary, Mamba, Sylvester, Cindy, thank you so much for those great remarks about our mayor. You know, Detroit's success didn't happen as a solo act, and you guys proved that through your remarks. We're going to conclude our program today with a fireside chat with Mayor Duggan and our very special guest, Dan Gilbert. I wish I were able to provide an introduction of Dan Gilbert that he deserves, but I cannot. But frankly, I don't know anyone who can. Yes, the business, civic, and philanthropic communities played critical roles in Detroit's storied story. But where would we be without Dan Gilbert? Where would we be had Dan not moved his businesses to downtown Detroit? Where would we be had he not personally recruited talent to the streets of Detroit? Where would we be had he not personally recruited businesses to the streets of Detroit? Where would we be had he not rallied other business owners and runners to follow in his footsteps? Where would we be if he didn't put his philanthropic might towards the betterment of Detroit's neighborhoods and so many other worthy causes? The simple fact is that I'm not sure where we would be, but very likely we would all not be here in this room today, and the view outside those windows would certainly look different. Let's watch this video as we welcome Dan Gilbert and Mike Duggan.
Hello and good morning. It says we only have 90 minutes here. I'm not sure we're going to Let's see.
So
Anyway,
I'm going to start by saying this. I remember the first year after your stroke, I get chills watching you walk onto the stage. It is a miracle how hard you work, how far.
I do want to remind you that I'm the interviewer. Okay?
Okay, you're in charge now.
Only 89 more minutes. Okay. All right, first of all, congratulations on your 12 years. This whole city and region owes you a lot of gratitude. Let's just give it up one more time for the mayor.
And thank you to Sandy for putting this on. And now I'm not going to feel so bad about missing the speeches at my funeral. This was really, really nice.
What's the old Yogi Berra line? If you don't go to my funeral, I'm not going to go to yours. Yep. So I got just a few questions for you here today. Not a ton, but you walk in one day, the city's on fire. Your office is occupied by an emergency financial manager. Is that what we used to call him? What was it?
Emergency manager.
EMR or something? Yeah, I don't know what it is, but and you just won on a write-in election. And so tell me about your first day, what you're thinking. Besides, what the hell am I doing here?
People have never really asked about the emergency manager time, but I came in very angry at Rick Snyder I went to all this trouble to win an election, and people forget Kevin Orr had been appointed emergency manager in March. He had been running the city for a year before I got elected, and I was in people's living rooms every night watching a city where the streetlights weren't getting turned on. The houses weren't getting knocked down. The ambulances weren't showing up for an hour, and he couldn't figure out how to open the parks. He closed the entire park system down. So, Kevin Orr was a great bankruptcy lawyer, but he's sitting in an air-conditioned office in Miami writing briefs, and he was put in charge of the operation. So when I got elected, I was like, I just finished running a 14,000 employee hospital system. I was ready to take over, and the early conversations were extremely tense. And Governor Snyder and I really had it out. I said, I just got elected to do this, and I need to run the operations of the city. People expect services. People are moving out by the thousands. I don't know. You're getting great headlines about the bankruptcy stuff, but the people in Detroit are leaving. And I remember the governor saying to me, well, he's running it. I think he's doing a good job. I said, well, let me just tell you, it's an hour for the ambulances to show up. The only reason we had ambulances was you and Roger Penske bought the ambulances for the city. We would have had none back then. I said, your emergency manager is knocking down 25 houses a week. We have 47,000 abandoned houses. I took out my calculator and I showed Governor Snyder that it would be 39 years before the houses were all knocked down. I said, and your emergency manager replaced 500 of the streetlights. We have 65,000. You don't need a calculator. He's on path to do 130 years. And to the governor's credit, he sent his right hand down, Rich Baird, who started to negotiate something that basically gave me operational control. So I went to work the first year. We got the streetlights on. We got the houses knocked down. We got the ambulances fixed and on the street. And then the biggest issue was in bankruptcy court, municipal bankruptcy works different than private bankruptcy. You can't liquidate the city. You can't have a reorganization. You actually have to have a 10-year plan the court approves that says the city is going to be successful. And Kevin Orr had excluded me from any of those meetings. I had no idea what was in his plans, his assumptions, until Judge Stephen Rhodes at the first hearing where they presented it says, what does Mayor Duggan think? And the bankruptcy lawyers, they really didn't care. They were in charge. And the judge said, he's the one that's got to implement this over 10 years. I'm not approving anything unless Mayor Duggan comes in and tells me he's reviewed it, he's approved it. And at that point, everything started to shift. We then started to design the future of the city in a way that we were thinking about services in the long run. Kevin Orr was a fine bankruptcy attorney, did a fine job on the bankruptcy side, but Judge Rhodes, Judge Rosen, and ultimately Rich Baird and Governor Snyder got us through it. But if you had been in the offices with Kevin Orr, it was not a friendly atmosphere that first year.
So how did you get him to back down? A headlock? Put him against the wall? What happened?
I showed the governor that I was going to go public with the actual operational performance. And the other thing was, Rich Baird, the governor's right hand, is just a truly good person. And literally, Rich would come down one day a week, and he'd make Kevin Orr and I sit in a room together, and he would mediate. And sometimes Rich told me I was wrong, and I would listen to him. But you never saw Orr and me attack each other publicly. And I give Rich Baird a lot of credit for that process. But it became clear once streetlights started going on at a rapid rate, once the houses started getting knocked down, once the ambulances started to show up, I think even Orr recognized he was a whole lot better off being able to focus on the bankruptcy. But at the end of the day, what Jerry Rosen did, my first meeting with Kevin Orr was like, you don't understand bankruptcy law. He says, we're going to liquidate these debts. We're going to sell off the art. I said, you can't sell the art. He says, you don't understand. It's the only asset the city has, okay, besides the giraffes at the zoo. He said, so under bankruptcy law, for sure the art's being sold. It's not even a conversation piece.
And the giraffe market was going through recession back then.
Exactly. The giraffe market wasn't there. But Jerry Rosen with his grand bargain, you look at all the people, the philanthropic organizations that pitched in, the fact that we saved the DIA and the Art Museum was a miracle, but it was the entire community coming together.
Two questions, two applauses. We're doing good.
All right.
This is our 6th or 7th fireside chat, by the way. 6, 7, 6, 7. Right?
We did,
Something like that.
we did this together in San Francisco.
Yes, we did.
Where they invited us out to get advice from Detroit on how to turn around downtown San Francisco. Now, who thought you'd see that in your lifetime? We got a pretty good reception there.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So anyway, it's a good segue. In the last 12 years, you've helped get the community, the philanthropic community, the business community, the government, all together growing in the same direction. Probably was Detroit's biggest issue. Detroit had all these issues you could name: jobs, crime, this, and this, but really culture is probably the foundational problem. I mean, you got everybody to row in the same direction. That hasn't happened in decades, if ever. Did you focus consciously on that, or is that something that just
from day one of my campaign? And of course, the campaign, you're campaigning in an 83% African American city. You hadn't seen a white candidate in 40 years. The entire message of my campaign was that the us versus them politics has to go. And Detroiters, remember, those who are here know, one of the top-rated shows in Detroit TV was people would go home and watch the replays of the city council meetings from that afternoon. I mean, it was just total embarrassment all the time. And who in the world would invest in besides you in that environment? But pretty much everybody else was going the other direction. But I promised people that I would end the black versus white, city versus suburbs, us versus them politics. And I remember during the 2013 campaign, I did a fundraiser out in Grand Rapids, and my opponent said, see, he's out in Grand Rapids, he's raising money for the Republicans. And I said, no kidding, because when I get there, we are going to need support in Lansing from everybody. And if you want a mayor who's going to attack the other part of the state, vote for the other guy. I'm going to build bridges everywhere. Detroiters said, well, that makes sense to us. And of course, came in and I won 92% of the precincts of the city, because the average Detroiter understood that this us versus them attacking politics was what was holding the city back. And I've been very lucky in the partners I've had in city council for 12 years. I've worked really hard at those relationships, but those council members had the courage. When it doesn't matter what your issue is, there's always somebody against you saying, don't give this to this person or that person. And the council members have to sit through those public hearings. But I give council enormous credit. I haven't had to veto an action in 12 years. And every project that you saw on that screen, city council approved. And we did it together. We did it fast.
I mean, I think that part of it is probably the least talked about part of it, and is the most important part of it. I mean, did you run into anything that you remember was like a roadblock culturally, specifically?
What I remember is Brenda Jones was elected as the council president, and she and I had known each other for a long time, but she kind of came out of the left wing of the Democratic Party, and so she invited me to her holiday party with 200 people. And I think 190 of them said to me, I didn't vote for you, but I wish you luck. And I thought, okay, this is the group that didn't support me. But she set a tone that said, even though we were elected by different constituent bases, we were going to work together. And so there were times when the politics in the back room was a little tough, but for the most part, again, you saw it when the council and I disagreed with each other. We never called each other names. We never attacked each other. Sometimes we disagreed on things, but you could feel the confidence of the public that they were watching a leadership that they could be proud of in the way we conducted ourselves. And I think it had a lot to do with the business investment in this community that that you knew that even if somebody voted no on you, they weren't personally attacking and insulting you?
Okay. What should Detroit's priorities be going forward, in your opinion? I'm not going to ask you about the new mayor, just Detroit's priorities, your opinion.
So there is a housing problem coming. And nobody understands it better than Mary Sheffield. But we have built housing like mad in this city for the last 10 or 12 years. Now, each year we took 2,000 vacant houses in the city and sold them on our website through the land bank. And so you think about 2,000 families a year have been absorbed. We've now had 17,000 families moved in to what had been vacant houses. And so we had a cushion. Of course, all you have to do is look around us and see we've had high-end housing, affordable housing. I think we've had 6,000 affordable housing units built. But as rents keep going up, if we do not keep building at a rapid rate, we're going to start to face the pressures other cities have faced. And we do not have any tent cities in the city of Detroit. We have built so fast. You got a number of cities in Michigan that have got tent cities. Certainly, pretty much every big city in America. But City Council just dramatically eased the ability to get tax breaks if you commit to affordable housing. It's now automatic. If you can actually look at a chart and see, if I give this amount of rent discount for 15 years, I get this amount of tax break. I don't have to hire a lobbyist or a lawyer to go to City Council. And right now, City Council is considering easing the zoning in our two areas to allow you to build 3 and 4 unit buildings in those areas instead of having to go through a special use hearing. The city is going to have to keep committing to those things because people are moving back here in big numbers. And we don't need to be Brooklyn or DC, who, when the city came back, the people who stayed have been pushed out. We're going to have to keep building and make sure those who stayed always have a place.
So what do we do about the highest property taxes in the solar system?
Yeah. So I've cut the mills, 5 mills in the last 3 years.
That's a starter.
And so now we're just like the highest in the state. So we're getting down from the solar system. And I've told the incoming mayor, I think you got to cut it again next year. I did propose something that was a significant step. It was called the land value tax. And it really was what led to my governor's decision. But we have still very high taxes, but I got 30,000 vacant lots in the city that are owned by out-of-town speculators. They pay $30 a year in taxes. They never cut the grass. They never clean up the garbage. And they hope that you or the Illiches or somebody come by and give them a big check to buy their plots of land. And my team came in and said, we're looking at this all wrong. We should be tripling how much we tax the land and cut how much we tax the buildings. How about we penalize the vacant land, the scrap yards, all that kind of thing, and we incentivize the building? And so I went up to Lansing and said, in order to do this, we needed a vote of Detroit, which I'm pretty confident Detroiters would all vote for a tax cut for their houses and tax the vacant land. But I needed authority from Lansing. And I went up to Lansing. And I brought in what I always do, brought in all the House Republicans for a lunch. And we had a great lunch. I fed them all, said, here's what I want to do. And it was a great meeting. Property tax cuts. We're Republicans. We're in favor of it. The next day, I had Joe Tate, who was a speaker, bring in all the House Democrats. I gave them the same lunch, the same room. Property tax cuts for Detroit. We're in favor of it. I says, great. It's going to pass 110-0. Easiest bill I ever passed. And then Joe Tate, who was the speaker, did something that I didn't give any thought to at the time. He put his name in as a sponsor. And if you know Lansing, the speaker doesn't sponsor bills. They give credit to their different members. But Joe thought this was going to be easy and be a big deal. He put his name in as a sponsor. The moment he did that, you had a legislature that was 56 Democrats, 54 Republicans. The Republicans said, this is the speaker's number one priority. They said, we're not voting for this bill, Mr. Speaker, unless you pass 2 unrelated Republican bills. And I went and sat with the Republicans and said, guys, you're in favor. No, this is our leverage. So I went to Tate and I said, look, we got a problem here. He says, no problem. I got all 56. We go into the House caucus, and this is your problem, trying to govern by one party at a time, 56 out of 56. Your most unreasonable people control it. As soon as he said to the Republicans aren't with us, I need all 56 of you. First one, you haven't taken up my defund the police bill, Mr. Speaker. You haven't taken up my rent control. And now the people on the left of the Democratic Party refuse to vote for it unless he took those up. I never got a vote because the two parties were so obsessed with fighting with each other. I do think you will see the new mayor, hopefully with the help of a new governor, take up the land value tax, but we have to fundamentally cut property taxes. We don't have the ability to do it without help from Lansing, and maybe we'll get both parties to finally go along.
I mean, maybe we should get an independent to run for governor. What do you think?
Now, there's an idea. I literally walked out of that room, and I've been going to House Democratic caucus meetings for 30 years. I walked out of that room, and listen, it was total chaos. And I said to Joe Tate, you're better off dealing with the 5 most reasonable Republicans than the 5 most unreasonable Democrats. He says, you don't understand Lansing. We can't do that. I thought, this is what Gretchen Whitmer is dealing with every single day. All the Republicans line up against you because you tried to beat them in their election. And that was a day, number one, I decided that day I was not going to run for governor as a Democrat. That decision was made. And that started me thinking, how is the state ever going to change? And if we keep going this way? And it ultimately led to where we are, and whether people want a third choice, we're going to find out next year.
Right, great. So housing is one. Is there any other priorities you think the city should have?
I will come back to the way this city has started to rethink the city. And I know you don't like it when I give you credit on stuff, but I always thought the turning point in the city was 2011, when you decided to hold a conference on placemaking. Now, 2011, everybody was clearing the hell out of Detroit. I'm running the DMC. Dan calls me. He says, I got this conference. I want you to come. Placemaking. I said, what the hell is placemaking? He says, the city we've known forever, you drive in the morning, you go to your office, you drive home. We have to create a city where people want to gather, where they want to live, where you actually plan this. I had never heard this conversation. I'm like, Dan, why isn't that the city's job? And he said, yeah, right. I said, okay. I said, but why are you calling me? I'm running a hospital system. He says, well, I just became the second largest employer in the city of Detroit. He says, and you're temporarily the largest employer in the city of Detroit. I said, okay. He says, don't you think you have some obligation? And so I ended up going to this thing I don't want to go to because this guy basically shames me into it. And I was mesmerized. The idea that you could envision a city where actually we all got together and thought, what would places be like to gather and where would you want to live? By the end, Cindy's DDP got me to go out to New York to look at parks. I go back to my office and my team's like, we're trying to get a hospital system through the Great Recession, and you're going to New York to look at parks? I said, this placemaking thing's really interesting. I went out and looked at Bryant Park in New York and what they'd done. And I came back, and if you're familiar with the Detroit Medical Center, on the west edge on John R. are Harper and Hutzel and Carmanos hospitals. On the east edge on St. Antoine is Receiving and Children's Hospital. And there is a green strip between that we basically use as a back service area. After I saw the way they transformed Bryant Park, I came back and filled that green brush mall area with gazebos and the like. And all summer long, people from all 5 hospitals gathered, and I saw the power of this. Now, you were a little more ambitious. You created Campus Martius, which Friday night, 115,000 people gathered. No incidents. But I want you to think about what has happened since then. After that, Jerry Anderson and DTE said, let's knock down this warehouse and build Beacon Park as placemaking. The city of Detroit created Spirit Plaza. The Wilson Foundation did Wilson Park. And now, I don't care what area of the city you drive into at night, aren't the lights from the new Hudson's building absolutely stunning, right? And then what do we have? The Giant Bear, Nick Gilbert Way, the old Hudson storefronts, and people are gathering. This city is gaining population, is gaining people, because the city is thinking of itself as the central gathering place for Southeastern Michigan for major events. And I think it's critical that all the private partners, the city leadership, from that one little meeting in 2011, Daniel, they'll give you credit for the buildings. It was your idea to rethink the the way the city should go that I think has triggered everything else. And I'll always be enormously appreciative you made me go to that meeting.
Thank you.
And DMC did become the second, I think maybe down to third now, but Dan did very soon become the largest employer of the city of Detroit.
Tell you a quick funny story on that subject. So the guy who works for me, black guy, been working for me for like almost 30 years. He's our chief tech guy. He calls me to the window. He's been living in the city for 30-something years too. He calls me to the window one day and says, Dan, what's wrong with all those old white men? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, why are they doing this with their neck all the time? Looking at it. Because any white guy over 50 walking down the city keeps looking up like this, like at the buildings and stuff. I go, they're just doing it because they haven't been here in a while. And they're taking a look. So
it was during the
that was
NFL
funny.
draft. It was amazing how many people I met who said, I haven't been to Detroit 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and couldn't believe it. And of course, we're running into them all the time. I came back later on in the summer and brought my son for a baseball game. I came down with my wife. But you've been saying this back when you and I were recruiting interns here when I was at DMC, is we have to physically get them here. And once people come and see, it changes everything.
it does. So let's talk about that since you talk about the young people. I mean, it seems like the city, the governor, the state, everybody's finally in the business community is on this. Let's retain and recruit young talent to the city. How do we keep on this trajectory? Because we're on a good trajectory. We started with interns, but now we're getting first-time job placements. We're getting a lot of transfers. We're getting people from all over the country and world coming here.
Yeah.
How do we continue it and increase it?
And I think the bigger issue is, how does the state of Michigan do it? Because we are losing people under 30 faster than any state in America. And there's two places young people are moving to. It's Detroit and Grand Rapids. And if we don't change the trajectory of that, we've got a problem. And so 12 years ago, I came in here and we hadn't had a new auto plant in 20 years. And I had tens of thousands of unemployed Detroiters with high school degrees who wanted to work. And you saw many of the stories, but Sylvester brought in his seating plan, and Dan and David Dowk is here who has done his axle plant. And we go right down the line. Lori's here from Dakota. Christine Estreicher's here from Jeep. We became the best in the country at figuring out how to land the manufacturing site. The last 2 or 3 years, we're moving to the tech side because we have to be the place in Michigan where the jobs of the future come, or these kids won't keep coming. It's why you and I go out to San Francisco to talk to those tech companies and say, what would it take for you to bring your next company here? And so we're creating, you got to have affordable housing as these kids start out in their careers. That's a huge undertaking. We've done that well in Detroit. But I talk to these companies, and you do too, massive amounts of capital going into AI. And when you talk to them, they say, what would it take? Well, AI needs huge data warehouses. And Michigan has got a completely haphazard situation in the way the data warehouses are going. Data warehouses consume a huge amount of energy. And we know we get storms here, right? And we have blackouts. We have to deal as a state to say we are going to create the environment that the tech companies of the future want to come here. And if we don't do that, there isn't anything we're going to have to say to these young people. But you've been pushing this tech side for quite a while.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. When you think about the kids leaving Michigan, everybody thinks Michigan State, suburban white kids moving. It's not. It's everybody's moving out. High school graduates, black people, white people, people of all colors, all backgrounds, all economic backgrounds. So we need jobs across the board.
There's no doubt about it.
It's not just the tech jobs.
We've had parents in this city telling their kids, go to school so you can move out of Detroit. Yeah. That's changing now. But when your most talented kids were staying in school to be able to leave the city, what's happening now. It's been exciting to see more and more of our best talent from the city coming back home. We got to do that statewide.
And do you have any specific ideas you're running on to do that as an independent?
Yeah,
for governor.
So people are being scared community by community on the data warehouses. And instead of sitting down one time at the state level and say, look, here is how we are going to guarantee that these data warehouses are going to be responsible for the extra power, so that if they go under, those rates of the neighbors don't go up, which is a legitimate fear. We're going to recycle the water in the system. We are not going to put the Great Lakes at jeopardy in pumping water out. There are a handful of things that we can do, but I would just go back to what happened when Amazon proposed to come here. In fact, Gary Torgo brought it to me the first time at the state fairgrounds. And immediately we had some protesters. Amazon's a terrible company. We're going to protest them. They're never coming to Detroit. And the Amazon folks in Seattle said, we've seen this movie before. I said, you guys stay in Seattle. I went to the neighbors in the backyard and I said to the neighbors, what do you want? And they said, we don't want to look at this asphalt and weeds at the fairgrounds. We want nice landscaping. We don't want the Amazon trucks down our streets, but we want parks in our neighborhood for our kids. I said, how about if I take the money that Amazon's paying us and build parks in your neighborhood that you design? We did that. We went to city council. The out-of-town protesters came in, but the construction trades and the neighbors said, we want it. 2,600 people are working at an Amazon site, and the head of Amazon Government Affairs told me it was the easiest siting they've ever done in America. We have got to talk to the people in the neighborhoods, engage them, get them comfortable. But if we don't build the tech jobs of the future here, we're going to wake up and find out Columbus, Ohio is eating our lunch, and we're in danger of that happening.
So now when you think of the priorities of the state, do they coincide exactly with the city, or are there other ones that are different?
I go look back and say, we've got to grow our population. We've got to build affordable housing. We've got to bring in the jobs of the future. And it's so funny. I was in Marquette 2 weeks ago. Biggest issue, bring in the jobs. But even if we get the jobs, there's no affordable housing here. During COVID, people actually bought homes in the Upper Peninsula as second homes, never put them back on the market. They've driven the property prices up, so you can't get young people to take jobs up there. I go to Traverse City. 17-year-olds tell me their biggest concern is affordable housing when they graduate from high school. I'm thinking, when I was 17, affordable housing never crossed my mind. We have got to address this across the state, and it really is, the more you talk to people in every part of the state, the more you realize how common our interests are.
How about mass transportation? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we had a really big announcement yesterday. This is the advantage of not picking fights with people on party. But yesterday, the Trump administration awarded us $50 million for 53 new buses for the system, which we're going to dramatically upgrade the caliber of bus service in the city. And then we got to start working on plans to connect cities with each other. And I just, 2 weeks ago, my wife and I took the train to Chicago. Now, we were in Spain 2 years ago and took the train across Spain. I don't know how it happened, but Europe is so far ahead of us. It is shocking. And it's just part of their lives that they connect in a high-speed train. I know when Governor Snyder was there, he was trying to figure out how to take out curves and speed it up. But I don't understand why other countries can solve this and America can't. But you want to work with me on that one, we can take that challenge on next.
Sounds good to me. I mean, I think it's got to be the number one or two issue in the state. I mean, just imagine what would happen if you had east to west side, you Ann Arbor Airport to here to Chicago and back. I mean, it changes everything.
Yeah,
it really does.
All right, when you finish the Renaissance Center, we'll take that one out.
Okay, sounds good. See you in the second term.
All right.
All right, we've got about 88 minutes left now. I think we can get some more in. How is this independent thing going?
Yeah, I was up in Saginaw last night, and it was so funny. Several people in the room. I'm a hardcore Republican. I'm a hardcore Democrat, and they're looking around the room. Saginaw, kind of Midland area, small community. They were laughing about the fact that their political adversaries are sitting in the same room, laughing and talking about common problems with each other. And I'm finding that every place I go. more so on college campuses, nobody hates the two parties more than the young kids. They really are. A number of them are afraid to go home for Thanksgiving. If it's not their parents, it's their uncle who just has got to talk about whatever is going on. I said, my dad was a federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan. I was never afraid to go home for Thanksgiving. We thought it was fun. I think there is a desire in the state for people to be able to talk about problems without losing friends, without not being able to go to the same events with your neighbors. And I'm finding willingness. So I tell you this, it's a whole lot easier than running a campaign as a writer.
Yeah. And I think the whole country's watching this.
Yeah,
And
they are.
if you can do it in Michigan, maybe we could do it in other states too.
You know, the two parties think they own the votes.
Yeah.
And that means as long as you make them, when they figure this out, there's only two choices. As long as you make them blame the other side for the problems worse than they blame you,
Yeah.
you win. You don't actually have to solve anything. You can win elections by effectively blaming the other side. We've watched play out in campaign after campaign, but you know, we got state government shutdowns, federal government shutdowns. At some point, the question is, can we work together? And we're going to see. But I can just tell you, January 1, I am just nonstop in farms and small towns and the parts of the state where they don't know me. And so far, everybody wants to come talk to the guy who says we don't have to fight with each other.
Yeah. So you've been working on this campaign now. It's almost a year, right?
It is a year.
It's a full year.
Yeah.
And we've got how many months? We've got a year. and
1 year to go.
1 year to go.
But this one's been a joyful.
And you think it's going to be one in the north?
Yeah, right. Every poll we got is I'm going to carry the southeastern Michigan. People here know me. But you get out to Jackson or Alpena, they're not following the city of Detroit. They don't know who the mayor is.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on. And so I'm introducing myself. But you're sitting in farm communities and the conversation always starts, you know, we've been forgotten. We're ignored. Nobody cares about us. What does the mayor of Detroit know about us? And every conversation starts with, you think I don't know anything about representing people who've been forgotten and ignored. I could take you back to Detroit and introduce you to a mom who was raising kids on a block with 4 abandoned houses, no street lights, no park. Police and fire don't show up. We didn't spend time making excuses. We fixed it. Let's talk about your situation. And you should see people's shoulders relax and they think, maybe we have more in common with Detroit than we thought. And that's the starting point for every conversation. And it's going to be the starting point for this.
Did they run attack ads yet from the left and right?
Oh yeah.
Still
They got, there's a billboard down the street.
Yeah, I saw
so
that.
I got half my fundraising so far from Republicans and half from Democrats. So the Democrats are like putting all kinds of stuff about the Republican donors. They leave out all the Democratic unions that are endorsing me, but they've got like MAGA donors or something up there. So yeah, the Democrats think the worst thing you can call somebody is a Republican.
Yeah.
And that's what they're running as an attack ad. We'll see if it works.
I don't think so. But you are getting an attack from both sides. Usually it's just one.
Oh, no, the Republicans say I'm still
Yeah.
really a Democrat. I don't really mean it. So this is where we're going to go. But I got to just tell you how much, how enjoyable it is to go to these small towns, villages in different parts and see what everybody wants.
Does it feel the same like early in the Detroit?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you went to the houses, house by house?
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing. But last night, lady showed up at this event in Saginaw. She says, my friend made me come, but I'm skeptical. I said, well, that's good. I don't need the supporters. I want the skeptics. And she walked out and signed the volunteer card. She says, I'm not skeptical anymore. That's what this campaign's like.
Okay. So we're getting the please wrap
Yeah.
notes here. So we could wrap it on that. I want to just again say thank you for everything you've done. I really appreciate it. Everybody appreciates it. City would not be where it is, not even close.
So thank you
Without
to
you, so
everybody
thank
in
you.
this room who's all been a part of this. It's been great. And Sandy, thank you for hosting this tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, thank you and good luck going forward. Everyone, thank you for being here. Have a happy, happy Thanksgiving. Apparently, we still have coffee. It is still warm. Unfortunately, the staff says I can't serve bourbon. Have a good day, everyone.